in by the now owner and operator of Jean Jacques.
So we have Arvin is on. Arvin, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right. So I will share my screen so that the layouts you have provided are visible to all.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think it's pretty clear what you're proposing, but if you could just walk us through quickly what your plan is.
Yeah, actually, we just adjust something from the last time, actually twice.
So what I'm showing now is not the latest? This was dated October 30.
Yes, this is the latest, and we are trying just from when the existing benches are to the right side to go all the way to the left side to that the planters are.
Yes.
Actually, to be two line of the tables with all kind of materials. We give the details on the proposal.
Okay.
Also the wood is has the gap between, as we talked last time, for the drain and for the trees to be able to get the water too. And we couldn't provide what kind of tables and chairs we will put because we discussed a little bit if we can just leave the tables outside during the night. I don't know if that's possible, but it's gonna help us. That's the only thing we don't have now. What kind of tables?
You meant if you leave the tables outside as opposed to bringing them in? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, because now
Okay.
we are bringing him every night and sending out every morning, and that's a lot of stuff for us. And if you're gonna have, let's say, 20 or 30 tables, that's gonna be too much. I don't know.
Okay, so I mean, I guess, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. They're your tables, and if you left them out and there was vandalism or loss, that would be at your own risk.
Yes, absolutely.
But absent that, I don't know that we would care to have you bring them in at night. Eric, do you think?
Nope, that would totally be up to their discretion.
All right, so so this is the look you propose, right?
We're gonna try to do something like that. Maybe gonna look better or worse, but I mean that's what we are trying to do. That's our goal.
Okay, so better would be great. Worse wouldn't be great.
Looks nice.
What is still uncertain about what we're looking at right now?
Actually, no. Everything is how should be. I'm not sure about that. On the sides, the flowers, how we're gonna put? I mean, do we have to provide something like that, the big one, or
you mean this planter at the end?
Yeah, that planters. I don't know if you do have something similar, or we have to build something, and everything else. I think it's gonna be easy from all sides.
Okay, and so you would build this and maintain it.
Yes.
We don't have a planter like that there now, so that would be at your expense, both to provide the planter and to provide and maintain the plants. But if you are willing to do that, that looks very nice.
Yeah, I think even if not the same one like this, we have to improve something like that. It's gonna look nice. We have to do something for that.
Right. So I mean, here's what I would say. I totally understand that it's a bit of a work in progress, but before we're done, we need.
Where's the property line? That wasn't clear to me.
Oh, this is on village property.
So the line is this where the sidewalk meets the.
Yeah, Eric, do you know exactly where the property line is?
It's I think just over the roof.
So the property line is somewhere in here.
Correct.
All of this construction
would be on our property.
Is on our property, which is what?
So this looks beautiful. I want to clarify that and this would be true is this true for all the restaurants? When something is in our right of way, is it open use or?
So this would be, there's a couple ways we permit outdoor dining.
Yeah.
There's the outdoor cafe permit that you can get through the building permit, which is putting a couple tables outside. Think of like Frank and Joe's.
Yep.
This would be under a license agreement. So we have license agreement in place with that route that kind of formalizes and they're gonna do that more substantial project.
Mhm.
Here would be a similar licensing process,
Okay,
and we can decide through that licensing process whether it can be just for their customers or for the general public.
So for example, in the old village where craft and bistro have outdoor seating,
Mhm.
those are specific to their customers.
Correct.
Right.
okay.
In the case of, by the
Sorry.
Fabric analogy, they're
Sorry.
not open in the morning, and so is use in the morning, but then they're not. Then
Yeah.
their own customers for the rest of the day, whereas Jean-Jacques, as it is now, is open almost the whole day, you know, so.
Right.
Yeah.
maybe-
Do you have any thoughts about that?
No, I was thinking, we haven't decided yet, but if you need for any reason, that kind of a floor gonna be removable. If we have to remove that, let's say for the winter, we can just remove and put back on the spring. I mean, if
So
you,
I was gonna
if you,
ask that question. Are you envisioning that you would take it down for the winter? Remove the whole thing?
it depends what kind of the material we will buy, but the expensive one, we can leave the whole winter outside. But for any reason, I mean, you're gonna tell us if we have to put inside because you have any project to work or whatever you have, we can remove and put on the spring back again. But it's gonna be double work for us. I mean,
Well, I mean, just speaking for myself, I think it's hard to imagine putting it up and having it up there, whatever, 8, 9 months of the year, then taking it down. What would the ground look like when you take it down? Everything would have
Yeah,
died.
there's no
Right.
point.
And you, I mean, I'm looking right now at these,
anyway, in that,
adjustable,
sorry.
these adjustable pillars that it sits on. Are they simply sitting on the ground or are they anchored into the ground?
Just sitting on the ground. Anyway,
Okay.
on the first line when you go out of the shop, it's no grass. It's just water and some, I don't know. It's no grass on that side. Eric and the guy
Yes.
that, yeah, you know that part very well. That
Yes,
when-
it's all beat up, but this would be more established. My take on it is it would be way better for this to be a year-round installation
okay, much better.
and
for
never
us.
go away. That doesn't mean you have to shovel snow off it or anything. You don't.
Yeah, much better for us gonna be to live for the whole year.
Okay, and you said that requires more expensive materials, is that?
Yeah.
Is that,
But
we're looking
it's-
right now at these Ipe wood tiles, is that
Yes.
what you're thinking of?
Yes,
Is that the more expensive? That's
it's
year-round
more
suitable?
expensive, but we're gonna save some money on the labor because we don't have to remove that, and it's gonna be
Okay.
either the same. Yeah, same thing.
Okay,
Right.
great. So your proposal is to build this thing that you show on this first plan and to use the Ipe tiles that are 2x2. They sit on these plastic columns, which are adjustable to line everything up so it's flat.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
Can I ask, when you look at this section detail, how do people step up onto this? It's 5.5 inches high. You just step up onto it?
If you can go to the first picture, I mean, it was.
Whoops, sorry, I went one too far.
Oh no. Yeah, when
This one
the
or-
existing electrical cable, it's
Yeah.
gonna be like for the from that side.
Okay,
You're gonna ramp,
Yeah, it's gonna be ramp. Yeah.
4-inch wide ramp
Okay.
up, right? That's right here.
I
Yes,
see.
correct.
Okay,
So that would make it ADA
that
compliant.
makes it ADA compliant, right?
Okay.
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. Public Works and the Building Department have looked at this and in concept.
correct. They provided initial feedback to Arvin. And to their credit, they made adjustments. One request was to actually scale down the scope and size, which they did. But yes, they reviewed for ADA compliant, at least conceptually.
Okay, and Arvin, this does not take down or affect any of the existing trees or shrubs or anything, right?
Absolutely not.
You're working around that. So I'm on the page here that shows these pavers. Is that an alternate or are you also using these somewhere?
This one that's in the picture.
I have Bison 2CM pavers. these are also almost 2 feet square. Was that an
Yeah.
alternative?
Yeah, I think it's an option.
Okay. I mean, I defer to those who know more about these materials. I think the wood looks nicer.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay. So pending anyone else's thoughts, this seems like it would be both a good thing for your business, but a good thing for the village as well.
I agree.
I agree. Looks beautiful.
The next step, Arvin, as we've discussed, and for the board will draft a license agreement. That would need to be, we'll have a resolution getting authorization to execute on the village side, and then Arvin, we would send to you for execution as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
So when, Arvin, do you think you would do this for the spring? I assume it's probably too late to do it now, right?
Yeah, it's too late for now. Maybe we have just to start planning everything for the spring.
Okay, so certainly you need to, whenever you finalize what's proposed, you'll deal with Eric and the building department to get that approved. But so long as the concept is as we have discussed, I think you don't need to talk to us again until you see us as customers.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, Arvin.
Thank you for your time. Thank you very much and have a good night.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
All right, great. Next item on our agenda was a conversation about our request to New York State Department of Transportation for a red light camera on the Sawmill River Parkway at Grant Street and Pleasant Avenue, and a request from the Pedestrian Safety Committee to reduce the village speed limit to 25 miles per hour. The request for a red light camera requires quite a bit of bureaucratic navigation.
It does.
You want to lay that out, Eric?
Sure. Obviously the Sawmill River Parkway is a state-owned roadway, and enforcement is done by the county PD. So in New York State, in order to place red light cameras, you need state authorization, state legislation in order to do so. So each municipality needs to get the assembly, the Senate, and then sign off by the governor in order to place red light cameras on their own roadway network. Most of the cities in Westchester, if not all of them, White Plains, Mount Vernon, did secure that legislation. The county actually just secured that legislation, actually signed off by the governor about a month or two ago.
Which is limited in several ways, one of which is only on county-owned roadways,
yeah,
maximum of 50 in total, and the legislation expires in 5 years unless renewed.
and they need IMAs in place with every municipality in which the cameras are located. So New York State does not have this authorization for itself. So some type of legislation would need to be passed enabling the state to put a red light camera on their network. And then subsequently, we would need to work out with the county, the enforcement mechanism, or the state and the county would have to work that out. It's another layer of bureaucracy, but.
Well, another operational layer is that some entity needs to take responsibility for looking at the videos that are triggered and confirming that in fact a person went through the red light.
Correct.
Signing off on what is a citation in general. That's way New York City, at least. It's not the same ticket you would get if you were cited by a cop who saw you do it.
Correct.
I don't think it entails points.
It doesn't, it's just a fine.
Right. But it requires some authorized entity to look at the videos and then issue the penalty. The penalty goes to the registrant of the car, not the driver, because of course there's no clarity on who the driver is. It's had a very, very, very good results in New York City. But whoever does this needs to take responsibility for dealing with it, which obviously for a city, especially a substantial city, is not the biggest lift. In this case, our hope is that since the county would have such a mechanism for the maximum 50 such things they would have on the Bronx River and the Hutch, that they could take this on if we got approval to do it.
Correct. And
Who
the
would-
chief, yeah,
Oh, sorry, who would pay for it and install the camera?
Presumably, the state would,
That's, what I mean, I'm
right?
right.
presumed
It's
as
a-
well, but
It's a revenue generating thing, so the bigger question is who gets the revenue, because it's gonna
okay.
be a very big net positive in terms of revenue.
Yeah, I would say likely not us.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want it, honestly.
Right,
If,
right.
if somebody would do this, I mean, the dream world for us would be, this could be established and everybody goes through a red light, gets a citation and it, reduces
Right.
the behavior. In a perfect world, since it's a state road, but the county is contracted for enforcement, it seems that the county was the logical enterprise to do this and the logical enterprise to operate it and the logical enterprise to get the money. The
Right.
state might have a different view, and so we had a conversation, we've had conversations with both Andrew Stewart Cousins and Mary Jane Shimsky about this. And there's certainly some interest in it, but among the problems and one of the reasons it's been difficult to get these things approved down the road in other situations is whether it becomes too broad and engages a constituency that doesn't want it, right?
Right.
so to reiterate, we passed legislation authorizing the installation of the light. Then we convene with the state to see if they are willing to actually do it, and we simultaneously convene with the county to see if they will manage it.
Right,
from a
the
police
state,
perspective.
through actually Assemblymember Shimsky's office, they've been talking to their counterparts at DOT. What the state DOT would like as a starting point is for the village board to pass just a resolution
Mhm.
requesting the red light.
Okay,
And then that will set into motion the legislative process.
okay,
Um,
sounds good.
so.
Yeah, I think it would only be good if we get it there.
I can't see a reason not to do it.
Yeah.
Other than the reality that it appears at least preliminarily to be an uphill battle.
Yeah, and I know in speaking with colleagues in other municipalities that received this authorization, we won't be involved in the operational perspective of this, but it is not so easy, is the feedback that I'm getting.
In what way?
Just the installation, breaking down exactly what we're talking about, revenue structure, how the tickets are issued. The good thing here is it's not, us who's managing that, it's the county with their.
Right.
Well, and-
greater
I mean, honestly, I assume they would be disinclined to do it if it were a one-off, but now that they're gonna have the infrastructure to do it for the 50 other ones,
Right,
it seems viable, but no doubt, I'm sure the equipment is not inexpensive to get it in place, and then there's ongoing maintenance.
Yep.
Why isn't it working? It appears not to be responding, all of
But
it.
from what I've read of the general experience with these, even though that is all true, it definitely pays out in the long run, just financially for whoever's running it.
Well, I can tell you, I went to a presentation by the woman in New York City who runs it, and they got initial authority to do a small number of them as a test, and obviously a different setting for the most part. They're trying to improve pedestrian safety at urban intersections, but the safety improvements were so staggeringly good. They dramatically exceeded anybody's expectations, including the people that hatched the scheme for the program.
Yeah.
That it has dramatically expanded. I think the city has pushing 500 of them at the moment.
Yeah.
And, but however, if I may be remembering this wrong, but I think they have a staff of 200 people to manage it. So,
And so that, Chief Grutzner has reached out to his counterpart, at the county to talk about that process. I've spoken with the county executive's office, so they've been looped into this initiative.
yeah,
So again, the next action item for the board is passing the first.
Yeah, and I think the feedback also, to make sure we get back to the pedestrian committee, is that they will want to keep in close touch with their county and state representatives and keep the supporters in touch with them as well to maximize the chance of this actually transpiring.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely.
so then the the other question, was, the state has fairly recently changed the statewide legislation to make it possible for communities like ours to have a standard 25 miles per hour maximum speed limit, whereas it used to be 30. Pedestrian Committee has asked us to act on that. Some other communities have, by their report, Croton has,
Yes.
maybe that others have as well. So, what that would involve, Eric, you'll correct me.
Sure.
You have to do a traffic study.
We have to have an analysis done by a licensed traffic engineer. Obviously, analyzing the impacts to speed limit reduction.
And that is likely $5,000-ish.
Yes,
And then we would need to replace all of our traffic signs that say 30 for 25.
right. And before that, obviously, we need to pass a
Yeah, right.
law amending that requires a public hearing along with it. But yes, we would have to replace all of our speed limit signs.
Could we, it sounds like you're going from if to how? Is that what I'm hearing?
I guess, yes.
Well, can we stop on the if?
Yes,
I mean, well, so I don't know a ton about this, but my sense is that the 30-mile-an-hour speed limit exists because that's the spot at which injuries from those accidents dramatically, what am I trying to say? If there's an accident
Right.
at 40 miles an hour, it is extremely serious. If there's an accident at 30 miles an hour, it's relatively.
yeah, so, and I'm
But
guessing,
what does,
I
so my
don't,
second, like, one question is about
Yeah.
harm reduction, and my second question is about enforcement. Are we going to enforce a 28 mile an hour?
25.
No, I'm saying, but if someone
Go.
going 28.
Oh, So-
Is the Pleasantville Police Department going to enforce that? And
I think relatively unlikely, obviously, as a practical matter,
Right.
that, I mean, enforcement of a few miles per hour, one way or the other. I will say, and I don't know this for a fact, but, I'm not certain that the original 30 arose out of an analysis. It may have arisen partly out of an analysis of harm reduction and what felt like the best compromise. I think part of it also arose from the idea that communities at a state level ought to be restricted from creating very slow speed limits in an effort to keep people from going through their town.
Mhm.
So, for example, whatever XYZ community says we have a community speed limit of 15 miles per hour. Oh, God, help us. I'm just going to go around that town instead of dealing with it.
Does the speed
I
limit,
just found an article.
does
saying-
that,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. Does that speed limit mean that that is the maximum speed for any road going through, or does it just mean that we have to separately decide on like Washington Avenue or whatever, if that's gonna be?
It would be village roads,
Every village owner.
Village
right? That
owner.
would
I mean,
include
I-
Manville and Bedford.
I don't doubt that we could independently say some road warranted a higher speed limit,
well, that's where we
Right.
would,
Right.
if we did make that decision, would be based on analysis. from
but I don't see that happening. I mean, at the moment, the only place that we are allowed to have a speed limit below 30 is a school zone.
Mhm.
And we have.
It's like there's a precedent for cities making a similar reduction from 30 to 25, and
Yeah.
that studies show that it does in fact have a dramatic effect on
Well,
This wouldn't affect Manville, right?
impacts
Which
of
is the main-
pedestrians.
it would,
Right, Manville
Or
is,
people-
right.
well, it wouldn't affect Bedford either.
Yeah,
Which, I mean, my sense of it is that Bedford has a traffic easing effect because it's so narrow anyway.
Yes.
But
Right.
Manville is built
Yeah.
to get people through town. And that's the one that seems that.
Yeah, so,
over 30 is the
right, I
norm.
mean, you'd be in this weird situation, for example, on Washington, where
Washington.
we own it from Manville out to about Grandview. And then it's a county road from there on in. So it'd be 25 until you got to Grandview. You might make the argument that there was something to be said for that. I dare say David would know better than I. Most of the residents along Washington would say, whoa, no, 25 the whole way would be great.
Would they though?
I'm not
I
sure,
don't
Yeah,
think
maybe
so.
they would.
yeah.
So,
25
and
is pretty
of
slow.
course, the other issue there is the challenge of whether some of these steps just ratchet up a driver's frustration and cause them to react negatively. I mean, I can report, I'm sure we've all had this experience. I was headed to 287 the other day, and I'm in the left lane at on the Sprain, because it's a left exit to get to 287, and I'm close to it. And some guy is like right on my tail. I'm going, I don't know, a few miles an hour over the speed limit, and he roars out around me and pulls back in front of me because of the horror that I'm only going the speed limit and why I'm in the left lane when I have to be in the left lane. So it's that kind of thing we're seeing.
Well, on Washington Avenue last night, actually, I always go the speed limit on Washington Avenue, and I was passed, with a double yellow line, illegally passed. Somebody was quite upset by that.
Yeah, I would say every time I for obvious reasons, I think all of us are attentive to it. You drive the speed limit on Washington Avenue and almost everybody behind you is annoyed.
Yeah.
Right? That's typical.
Yeah.
But again, this would be not affecting the longest part of that.
Well, I'm seeing, so I haven't done extensive research on this, but just looking casually now, like New York City, Boston, London, like there's like, it seems like in the past 10 years or so, many cities, and obviously we're not a city, have made that exact shift from 30 to 25. So there's obviously some kind of statistical reason for making that a specific,
It seems like it would make
Change.
sense for the vast majority of the village, all the small winding roads, et cetera. And I think the only question is, like, I know on highways, absolute speed is very dangerous, but the other thing that's very dangerous is when two cars are going very different speeds. So that you want to just be careful that we're not creating that effect on any of the larger roads. But I think for the average village road, 25 makes more sense anyway.
And then my concern too is, if you look at a lot of the side roads like Sunnyside, Market, Orchard, all those roads are very narrow because usually cars are parked on the side and
Yeah.
people still go pretty quickly on those.
yeah,
And there's
Sure.
no need to be going that fast. on those roads.
Yeah.
There's generally people coming out, there's kids, there's
Mm-hmm.
people walking their dogs. I mean, I walk a lot, I'm down over by Sherman Park area, same, all those people fly and there's still cars parked on the side and people are flying down those streets.
yeah,
And, I do think that obviously you see a 30 mile and most people will easily be like, I can go 35. So, they'll always increase it more so that if we make it 25, at least 30, that could be something that can avoid even one accident. I mean, or having someone get hurt. There's so much of that I think, it's something really that I'm in support of us definitely looking into it and seeing, and a lot of the articles you're probably looking at, Nicole, I've
Yeah.
reviewed as well. And it seems like it works in that it does deter people from going faster. And if it doesn't impact us in a whole, I think, I don't think it would add more traffic. I don't think it would just kind of slow things down just a little bit. And being that, we pride ourselves in being a walking village. I mean, this to me seems like it would be probably an appropriate course of action to take.
So I guess, I just in principle don't like unenforced laws. And so I'm wondering if deterrence is the goal, are there other mechanisms that we want to
Well,
consider?
I don't think-
We've talked about
Yeah.
various other traffic calming measures that we've
But
enacted several of them that were not about speed limits.
I wouldn't say that this is an unenforced law, because I think that it's very unlikely if you're traveling 34 right now, that you would get ticketed. I just think this lowers the threshold. So if the reality is that it's not in the officer's best interest to spend his time giving tickets to people who are traveling 5 miles per hour, the speed limit, both because of the size of the ticket and the danger that person is posing, then the speed at which they start ticketing will be 5 miles per hour alone.
yeah. It,
So that,
there's the borough rule.
I haven't talked to the chief, I'm just.
Well,
curious
so,
about if if
So-
they're gonna get tickets on Sunnyside for these sorts of things.
well, you know, it's interesting, on Sunnyside,
Method would be.
Sunnyside is an interesting example where a piece of it is a school zone. And we had significant concerns by folks who lived on Sunnyside about speeding, the result of which in the end was a speed hump added
Right.
to the street. But we did do speed counts with a speed counter out there for a period of time, and the speeding results were less prominent than the neighbors thought. In part because 30 miles an hour can seem pretty fast
Yeah,
if it's pretty close to you.
You're sitting still, yeah.
Right, right. So, in the end, I think that thing has been productive. Not every neighborhood is the right place, and we can't have them all over, but, I mean, I totally agree. It needs to be explored further, before acting on. I wonder, Eric, you can have a chat with your colleagues at Croton about, I mean, just for example, would we be interested to see the results of the study they had in order to make this decision, because there are aspects of Croton that are kind of parallel to our situation.
Right, and just so you know, there is a process, so reducing the speed limit has to fall within the MUTCD, which is the engineering manual that traffic engineers abide by. There's a document, and I'll just read a little bit so you get a feel for it. It's not just a willy-nilly one-off decision. Needs to be within 5 miles per hour of the 85th percentile speed of free-flowing traffic using radar. Not sure what that means, but you know, obviously.
Yeah, that's the.
And he's conducting a moving vehicle check during free flow conditions. So, and then using FHWA web-based speed limit tools. So there is an analysis component of this that we'll look at.
That just means when traffic is not the limiting factor, right?
Correct, yeah.
So, not to belabor this, but just one last question. Can you all give me an example of the street you're thinking about that this will help? If it doesn't help Manville or Bedford
well, even my
or,
street,
or that part of Washington,
Yeah.
the long part of Washington.
I think Hillview would be a street that it would help on. I think all of these side streets, people sometimes come, even 30 can be pretty bad when there are kids in the front yard.
Ashland people seem to drive a bit quickly, getting through it to cross to cut through.
I mean, and people will still do that.
That's what I think.
There isn't any question about that.
Absent enforcement, that's my.
Well, but I mean, I think as Nicole said,
One part of it.
it introduces a little bit of a different threshold for enforcement. You know, if someone's going 37 on Ashland in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, is a speed trap going to collar them? Maybe, maybe not. If someone's going 37 in a 25 zone, now the 12 miles an hour of the speed limit, that's a more substantial violation. What is the threshold, Paul? You know this stuff.
Usually it's about 15 miles is when they'll usually ticket you. When that-
15 miles over the speed limit.
Yeah, so if you're staying under 15, you should generally.
And the points are
Certainly.
higher at higher
Yeah,
amounts over the speed
Right.
limit.
we
So
certainly
Jen-
have had police, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
enforcing the speed limit, and that's something that the pedestrian committee has engaged with them on. And it's generally done as a deterrent, obviously, and it's often targeted. You know, if there's a particular area or a particular time of day where we have problems. I agree with you, Manville is the biggest.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
I've had problems, I mean, now I'm like super aware of it,
Yeah.
but I've had problems sometimes when I turn off of 117.
Yeah.
Heading, I guess not
Yeah.
west. Because, you know, it's the same thing as when you like get off a highway, right? Like, you're already going pretty fast and it's so wide. So that's a problem to solve another day.
The width of it is subconsciously suggestive that you can go faster.
Yeah,
So would this then change our signs at the entering points to the village where they're flashing at you? They would all flash if you're going over 25.
Well, what's interesting, I mean, I think we have one on Washington that's in the county section of Washington, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so that would not change.
Those are mobile though,
The
right?
one,
Like,
and the one we
yeah.
have on Bedford is on the county Road, so that wouldn't change either.
And the one.
The one we have on Bear Ridge is our road.
Right across the boundary, right?
It's right, it's on our side, right? So,
Well, we would have to have a campaign for something like this, you know, to make people aware that we're doing it and why we're doing it and all of that kind of thing. So Eric, to go back to you, so we have to do this analysis. So could you break down for us, like if we decide that, well, let's say, it sounds like we feel like we need to think about it a little bit more, but if we get to that stage where we decide we would like to move forward, what are like the first three
So we
steps?
would seek to secure a traffic engineer. I know DTS Provident, who did the Bedford Road analysis for us, they've done this in a couple other municipalities.
Mhm.
So we'd look to engage them. They would conduct the analysis, provide a presentation to the board with their recommendations. We would then draft a local law amending the code to, well, or not, right? But if the recommendation is taken up to reduce the speed limit and the board supportive of that, we would draft a local law amending the code. We'd hold a public hearing, which we can keep open if we wanted to or needed to, and then ultimately pass the local law.
Okay.
so obviously we'd have to hire our own consultant review to do it, but if Croton is willing to share with us the results of their project,
Sure, yeah.
which I'm sure they would.
Yep.
That might be helpful to highlight what was perceived by their consultant as the advantages and possible disadvantages of the project.
The flashing signs, do they not say village speed limit?
We have to look and see what they say.
Because we'd be flashing to people driving through village speed limit 30 and you're over. But
So
then 5
it's-
seconds later, it'd be. a
yeah, I
different
mean, we'd
speed
have
limit.
to,
They
we'd
can
have
be
to look
moved
at where that
too.
sign is, I guess, right?
They can be
but
moved, so we
We're
could
sending a
put it
mixed
at the-
message to drivers
Yeah.
passing through town.
You are,
It's
yes,
true.
yes, yes. That said, I will say that again, you guys, you drive this most often, probably, David, but my anecdotal evidence is people are backing up behind me on the straightaway of Washington, largely the county section. When you get past Grandview, more cars parked both sides, headed more into downtown, people sort of instinctively slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
They speed up a little, they slow down because of the speed camera, the speed sign.
Mhm.
They tend to gain a little bit of speed coming down the hill, just because people are,
Coming down now.
coming down the hill. And then they slow down before they get into town.
Yeah,
So, I mean, you raise a perfectly reasonable point, especially since the speed cameras or gizmos that we have.
Right, we have 4 of them, right? On 4 sides of town.
Do we have a fourth?
Yeah, coming from the west side.
Yeah, so, certainly the ones on the county, and or any on a state road wouldn't be affected.
Just to keep on time, why don't we just take our next step as taking a look at that Croton report?
Yeah.
It doesn't cost us anything.
Okay.
We can learn more.
And then just on the pedestrian committee front, but you saw the proposed meeting in December, they requested that we were scheduled to January. So
Right.
we're still working out a date on that.
Right.
But we can revisit this when we need.
Okay.
and I'm gonna be reaching out to them about, moving forward on the recommendations that came out of the traffic signal study on Bedford.
Okay, great. All right, next item on the agenda was follow-up discussion about amendments to the village code concerning loading zones.
Okay, so we had previously discussed this, just to recap quickly. We have loading zones in the village code, but not much detail behind these loading zones. There's not much of a definition available. So with both the 2 new buildings, we thought it prudent as we seek to identify some loading zones. So what we have before attached to the work session agenda, and then also a resolution with this draft local law scheduling a public hearing to consider, just details the rules and regulations around these loading zones. We endeavor to make them 15 minutes. Obviously, the parking enforcement officers and police officers would have some discretion. We spoke with the police chief and the police department about And kind of went back and forth whether 15 minutes was enough, whether we want to make it time limited. We thought it probably most prudent to put a minute restriction on that. So we fell at 15 minutes. There is verbiage around it has to be within 500 feet of an establishment or business or residential building. And this local law identifies the spot that's right next to the bump out on Memorial Plaza as the first loading zone space. And then we further consider maybe making the area right in front of the Atwood. We have the hatched out area and then a non-painted area, maybe formally making that a loading zone.
Which would address the Amazon drivers and
Correct.
all of that.
It's become less of an issue as of late, but wouldn't hurt to move on that. And then we may identify one on Cooley Street as well. I believe there always used to be a loading zone space on Cooley Street, so we look to update the code on that as well.
And where would that be?
I believe that was about midway down.
Okay.
So gonna take a look at the parking layout and see where that would make the most sense to reestablish.
Okay, so it seems like a logical strategy to straighten things out a bit and clarify the code and make it more consistent across these various zones.
And so again, the next move, we have a resolution on tonight's agenda to schedule a public hearing. The next meeting to consider, we can keep it open or pass it at that meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, while when Cooley Street was mentioned, you and I and Robert and Anthony visited the work going on Cooley Street. Why don't you just give a quick update of where we stand there?
Sure.
Okay.
So the sidewalk is done. They are waiting on a highway work permit from the state DOT to make stormwater and water main connections on Manville Road. That has gone through what we believe is the final stage of review. And then once they do that, they can finish the project. That's really what's holding it up right now. The street light fixtures, I believe, are due in January, and so we'll have some street lighting as well added to that. Hopefully, we can't do that work in the winter. We'll wait till the weather breaks in the spring.
Is there a prognosis on how long the highway work permit will take?
I don't know. It's in the state DOT world right now.
Ouija board, tell us.
Yes,
Okay.
we don't know. And that.
But the streetscape improvements are really, I think, going to be a very substantial improvement. And we have, as you know, new light poles coming in, which are, when are they due? January, something
Yeah,
like that?
January, February.
The holiday lights that the beautification committee submitted to us are looking nice.
Yeah.
Very nice,
We got
yes.
some good
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
Same.
So it's not inexpensive, but a really nice upgrade for what we had before.
Yeah, agreed.
No, I wish the snowflakes weren't such a cool white and instead could have been a warmer white.
Mm,
Hope springs eternal.
That's right.
All right.
Ahead of schedule.
Miracle, ahead of schedule, right? So as you guys perhaps have already noticed, and we'll mention the causes of it, but we're spending a very large amount of money in the payment of claims register this month because of both payment to the police and fire retirement, the payment to non-uniform employees retirement, and the healthcare. What are we, like $2 million something dollars?
Yeah. And believe it or not, the two retirement payments came in just under budget.
All right, so that's good, right?
Sure, but we were also advised that those are going up next year by 5%. So,
Right, and 5% on a big number. One of the biggest single line items we have is a significant hit.
And then on that note, we just got, updates on the night shift rates for next year.
Yeah,
Which is always a fun time of year. So it looks like rates are going up. For the single plan is going up by 9.5%. The family plan is going up by 8.25%. So that's, and then the Medicare's, going up by the single 15.5%, family plus one, 19.95%. And then, Medicare family, 2 by 19.32%.
So several $100,000.
In the general fund, likely around $290,000.
why, is that inflation or why is that so dramatically increasing?
That is literally the $1 million question we all try to unravel. Last year it was a 12%, when you average it out, about a 12% increase, and then they, in the middle of the fiscal year, lowered that and provided us money back. So, they would say inflation. So
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it engages a massive question for society at large that's been brewing for decades, which is how possibly can we contain healthcare costs, which are growing so dramatically. So lots to be said about it, lots of different viewpoints. But we're now in an environment. I'm on the community board at Phelps, formerly the legal board, now the community board. Now that Northville has completed its 5-year transition, but I see the numbers at Phelps, and it is they're quite staggering numbers for what it costs to do things, especially in an environment where there's a constant need to expand the latest and greatest technology in order to provide healthcare. But there are also counter arguments out there about who's actually getting paid to do it, right? Are the equipment manufacturers, are the insurers, are the pharmacy, the pharmaceutical companies all doing better at public expense? Many complicated conversations, but we're at the end of that funnel and don't have much influence over any of it other than to pay what we get.
Correct. So, well,
All right.
we start really digging into the budget come the end of December-ish, and so we'll obviously have a lot of those impacts.
Now, oddly enough, I was in a conference in California with representatives from all over the US, and some that had about 75,000 people that represented, and some as small as 7,500, and everyone had the same issue.
Right.
The biggest budget line that you can do.
Right.
So it's
Well, I mean, in an environment with a theoretical 2% tax cap, which ebbs and flows, it never more than 2%, sometimes less. Although certainly that's not the environment we're in right now. It's 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. So in an environment where you have a rate of inflation substantially higher than 2%, it just tightens the noose around a community's budget, because expenses are going up faster than 2%, but the absent breaking the cap, which is obviously within our rights to do, but we have sought not to do it. The painful reality you may have heard some call is you see a lot of communities, especially communities in less secure circumstances than ours, just kicking a can down the road for things they know need to be done because they can't do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Projects that were undone that started, and essentially you just have to abandon it.
Which is exactly, especially for example, in the world of infrastructure, is not a recipe for a vibrant future. So,
Right.
Tough stuff out there. All right, 7:59. Can I grab that water, David? Thank you, sir. Or anybody? Or you have your own? They have their own.
Paul needs a cup.
All right, we click to 8, we'll start. Military precision, don't you think, Marcy?
I love it.
7:59, we're waiting until 8.
We are.
Then the bombing starts.
All right, 8 o'clock has arrived. Welcome all, welcome to the village board meeting for the village of Pleasantville. Today is Monday, November 27. We began tonight with a work session at 7, our regular meeting now beginning at 8. Our next regular meeting is on Monday, December 11, 2 weeks from today, at our normal schedule. And then because of the intervention of the holidays, we have a short meeting scheduled for Thursday, December 21 at noon, primarily to approve the bill paying check requests so that we can keep people getting paid on the schedule that we're required to do it. Again, regular meeting on December 11th, short meeting on December 21. A couple of quick announcements to make, and then we can get to the evening's agenda. First thing to report is we have a couple of things coming up, one of which is a day after tomorrow, Wednesday, the lighting ceremony for the tree and the dreidel. That's Wednesday, November 29. Paul,
Yes,
So
we have some,
Paul's been at the helm of this in his role as Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce.
yes, so we have a great event coming up. We have 426, which is a band that was there 2 years ago. They're very, very good. They're well known in Westchester and really a lot of the counties nearby. We will also have the village and the chamber donating cookies for everyone that's there. Pace University has donated hot chocolate, so we'll have that as well. We'll also have music from, wait 1 second, the children group will be, Group 116 will have a couple songs that they'll be performing. So we expect a good crowd. It looks like the weather's just gonna be chilly, but that's good. Nothing, no snow, no rain. So we're hoping to see everyone out there. And for food wise, we will have Southern Table and Wooden Fire will be there. They'll be set up so anyone can come by and get their dinner there while they're waiting for the events to kick off. The band will probably start playing songs at about 6:45. So if anyone wants to get there a little earlier, they'll already have some entertainment available. I look forward to seeing everyone.
All right, great, thank you. And thank you to all of those involved participants who make that such a fun event, and thank you for putting it to the next level. Continuous improvement, better every year.
I have an announcement too.
Okay, make it.
All right, so full night of events. Tomorrow, Films on Purpose and our Climate Smart Task Force are hosting a film and a panel on climate change. They're going to be showing Getting Warmer, which is a Bloomberg original series with actor Kal Penn. There is going to be a panel as well that's going to be providing information about ways to save energy in your home, various things that you can do. We're going to have a couple of people from Cure 100 and a representation. I will be, I guess, representing our Climate Smart Task Force and talking about what we've done in Pleasantville and also talking a bit about New York State legislature and both the things that have already happened on the state level and things that are coming up and that you will want to be aware of. So that is tomorrow. The reception is at 6 p.m. The film is at 7 p.m. at the Presbyterian Church. We'd love to see you there.
All right, thank you for that. Tuesday, December 5, a week from tomorrow, we have our annual joint meeting with the Pleasantville School Board. So that'll take place at their place in the high school library, 7 p.m. On Tuesday, December 5, joint meeting of the village board and the school board. Then the last thing I had on my list was a shout out to Andy Goodman, Greg Nemec, and Kat Nemec, who are the masterminds behind the Pleasantville Puzzle Hunt, which they've done a few years running now. Really spectacular venture with all kinds of folks downloading on Thanksgiving morning, I guess, a multi-page series of pretty complicated puzzles. And you work your way through the puzzles and then are led out on into the field to find various things that are located in various places around the village. So I'll be interested to hear how many people participated this year, but I saw a lot of people walking around with a sheaf of papers. So
Yeah, my wife and two of my children completed it. It was amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
my wife and daughter completed it, and I encountered someone on the street, and I said, "Oh, you did the puzzle? Oh yeah, we did that. We finished that." Really, why would you even ask? Of course. At any rate, it's a labor of love by some extraordinarily creative people. So thank you, Andy Goodman, Greg Nemick, Kat Nemick. A pretty fantastic venture that's been going on a few years now, and hopefully will go on forever. All right, any other announcements? All right, so the first item on our agenda is continuation of the discussion of the Pleasantville Lofts LLC appeal of a decision and determination of the Pleasantville Architectural Review Board concerning 70 Memorial Plaza. Anyone who has been interested in this, all the documents are available attached to our agenda items from this meeting, as well as our previous meeting, available through Novus Agenda. You can reach that via pleasantville-ny.gov, but let me just set the stage so everyone is clear on what's being discussed. And I read this a small section of the memo provided by Jennifer Gray, our land use attorney from our village council, Canaan Beacon. On October 11, 2023, the Village Board of Architectural Review denied an application submitted by Pleasantville Lofts LLC for amended architectural approval to address modifications in the roof plan as compared to the approved plan. Specifically, mechanical units on the roof of the newly constructed building at 70 Memorial were installed in different locations and at different heights than that which was approved in 2019. The ARB discussed the application at its regularly scheduled meetings held on April 12, April 26, June 14, September 13, September 27, and October 11. By a vote of 4-1, the ARB denied the application on October 11. Therefore, pursuant to Section 185-57 D2 of the Village Pleasantville Zoning Code, the applicant has filed an appeal of such denial to the Village Board of Trustees. The result of that is that the Village Board needs to determine its view of this, either to ratify the rejection or to accept it in whole, the applicant's proposal in whole or in part. And again, reading from the advice of counsel, in the event the applicant is aggrieved by the Village Board's decision on appeal, the applicant may challenge such decision by filing an Article 78 proceeding against the Village Board in Westchester County Supreme Court, pursuant to New York civil practice law and rules. So all of us have been given the full set of minutes for all of those meetings that I mentioned previously. It's 50 some odd pages of minutes, and all of us have read them to read through the entire document and to understand a process that has taken many twists and turns. But the sum of that, based on the comments of the board at its last meeting, is that the two issues that remained, a smaller issue, the presence of white labels on the HVAC units, which were originally a light color, but the applicant has since painted black. That was viewed as a positive step by the ARB. Some concern about the fact that the equipment labels, which have model numbers, serial numbers, et cetera, were remaining white. But the other and perhaps more substantive piece of the argument was a desire to have some sort of an infill panel between these vertical units that would make each section of them read as a single band, as opposed to a series of separate pieces with space between them. Two things to report about what has happened since. One is in conversation with the owner. They have agreed to cover the white labels with a removable black cover, so that day to day those white labels will not be visible, but operationally they can be removed to take a look and get the details as required off the specifications. So that matter has been resolved successfully, and that leaves, I think, based on the ARB's discussion, the matter of the infill elements between the units. Since I think the ARB's last discussion, the applicant has put up some planters that are on the inboard side, not the outboard side, of some of these units that have hemlock trees in them. Those apparently are designed to shield the back of the units, which is not the business side of it, from view. And what I would say about that is folks who can look at that would have their own opinion about it. I do think to some extent those hemlocks mitigate the gaps between in the location where there are those planters, but those are in only one location out of the total setting. So let me just read again from the standard of review as set forth in our 18557C2 of the Village Code. The ARB may disapprove any building permit referred to it, provided that such disapproval shall be by a vote of at least 3 members. They had a vote of 4 to 1, and provided that such board finds that the structure or building for which the permit was applied, if erected or altered, would be detrimental to the desirability, property values, or development of surrounding areas due to other significant design features, such as material or quality of architectural design, roof structures, chimney, exposed mechanical equipment, which is obviously the subject in question right now, et cetera. And that providing a finding of inappropriateness shall state not only that such inappropriateness exists, but further that is of such a nature as to be expected to provoke by a preponderance of the evidence one or more of the harmful effects set forth herein, and that the finding is not based on personal preference as to taste or architectural style. So those are, that's the lay of the land we confront. It is, I think, the view of all of us, pending anybody's desire to chime in, that the issue before us is limited to the question of infill panels between these elements, which could be achieved obviously in other ways, but that's the issue in play. The issue of the labels has been addressed. At the previous meeting, the applicant spoke and is here again. I don't think there's any need to speak unless there is new information you wish to add. If there isn't, no need to comment.
Nothing additional.
Okay. So it is my view, and I will speak first, that this whole episode, and I think the long and a bit tortured process that it has gone through underscores, on the one hand, the efforts of the ARB, which is coterminous with our planning commission, to try to address a matter that arose in the course of the creation of a building that wasn't part of the original approval, and that is certainly to be validated. I will absolutely say that I think this whole process suggests that we need to give some further review to how we manage issues like this that arise when mechanical issues arise that change in a substantive way the likely appearance, location, height, color, whatever it might be, of HVAC units. I think it's clear, and I think the ARB recognized at the point that a building is originally proposed, the mechanical aspects of it have yet to be fully evolved, and inevitably there are some changes along the road. In a lot of circumstances, those changes turn out to be insignificant and don't matter in this case, because of course it's a big building, a prominent building, central to our village and visible from all directions. It arose to a higher level. Lots of struggle back and forth, and one can argue back and forth who might have done what when. Our role. So my opinion, having reviewed the legal standard we confront, having reviewed the history of the whole thing, which I've read in detail, and having reviewed the other circumstances in the village where exposed mechanicals exist unrelated to this project but elsewhere, it is my view that having addressed already the issue of the labels, I will vote to to sustain the appeal and vote in favor of the applicant. And I do that with great respect for the ARB, having served on that ARB a long time ago. And as I mentioned at the outset, I do feel that it will we need to engage a process to think about how we avoid a situation like this arising down the road. So with that, I vote to accept the appeal. I'm going to ask each of our members to offer their comments, if any, and to let us know how they would vote.
Sure. I also vote to accept the appeal on the same grounds. I have also reviewed the history, and essentially it comes down to the legal standard regarding, in particular, the bar of that it would be detrimental to the desirability, property values, or development of the surrounding areas. So based on that criteria, I will vote in the same way as Peter.
Paul?
I will also support the appeal. I do believe that looking at it, interpreting the way that the code is written, I do believe that the applicant has made good claims that I think are supported by also their effort in trying to work with the suggestions that were made by the ARB. And even after the decision was made, they continued to make these improvements. And I do believe that also the course of action that would go from here and where this process will continue going, I think it's not something that would help the overall purpose of what we're trying to do here in this building specifically. So for those reasons, I do support the appeal.
David?
I'm going to expand a little bit more on my thoughts, and thank you all for being succinct, so I might not be. I'm extraordinarily uncomfortable with this responsibility, partially because of my history. The reason that I'm on the village board is because the village board elected to not have sidewalks in front of the Toll Brothers. And while now sitting on this board, I sort of understand why that decision was made, I still think the planning commission was actually right there. And so I've been acutely aware since the moment I stepped onto this board that when it comes to anything regarding how buildings and houses and backyards and all that works, that everybody in the planning board knows more than me. And particularly people like Bill Myrick, not only knows more than me, he probably knows more than most people in the United States about how places are made and how villages prosper or fail to prosper. So that seems to put a very acute burden on this board that feels very uncomfortable. And the law, as I understand it, requires us to sort of look at this entire question de novo. So we have to say, we want to look at the history and everything, but we have to judge this from the beginning. And what I can't do is to substitute my judgment for the planning commission members, but at the same time, there's a reason that we're the board that is here for the appeal. And the only thing that suggests to me is that we have to look at evidence. And I guess, you know, the thing that struck me in reading through all of the different planning sessions was that this was sort of a slow moving car accident that could be predicted for months and months, and there was tension between the parties, and that ending up in this place was not, well, it may have been somewhat unexpected, but it was not entirely unpredictable. And I think for both the applicant and for the ARB, the thing that I would say, you know, having realized going through all this, is that the question at issue, you know, whether the whether the screens in between the units are detrimental to the desirability, the property values, or the development of the surrounding areas is maybe not perfectly knowable, but it is not unknowable either. And so the thing that would have helped us would have been if somebody contacted a few commercial real estate leasing agents and said, hey, this is what's going to be next door. Does this affect the value of your ability to sell this property? Because we're in no position to weigh opinions here. And I don't find that evidence. And again, I don't see why it was the planning commission's responsibility or the ARB's responsibility to create that. But I don't see any evidence that this last thing actually shows that the lack of gaps between units will change the value of the surrounding properties, which I think is the question at issue, or change the development of the town. And that, for that reason, in no disrespect to the planning commission or the ARB, I just don't have the evidence to not side with the applicant in this case.
Michael,
Thank you. I don't have much to add to what my colleagues just said. I'm very grateful to the Planning Commission and the ARB for all of their time. This is a small town of citizen governance, and virtually almost everyone involved in our town government is a volunteer, and the ones who are not are paid very modestly and work hard. So I'm very grateful to all of them and their expertise. My response is very similar to David's, that I was seeking evidence to validate that claim of things detrimental to property values or desirability. I think the building is very impressive, and the fact that the rooftop mechanicals look jagged and disrupt the otherwise sleek roof line is undeniable, and we could wish that things were installed differently or as they were originally submitted. That said, there are other buildings within the same block that, if you're standing at the train station entrance, also have very visible protruding mechanicals. So I've seen, like David said, I've seen no evidence that these mechanicals are detrimental to desirability or property values of the surrounding area. So I would vote in favor of the appellant.
okay, so thank you for that. It's clear where we're headed here. Let me just reiterate, I do think, and I say this echoing all of my colleagues' comments, that this is a process that didn't have to go this way, and the changes were very substantial in where these things landed and how high they got, and we clearly need to find some mechanism to make sure that comes back to the ARB at a time when a resolution can be found before we're confronted with what is in effect the fait accompli.
Mhm.
So I challenge everybody, and I challenge the owner in this case as well, to think about how we might do that, because clearly none of us want to be in this circumstance. And the last thing on earth, as David already mentioned, this board wants to be doing is playing a role in matters that really don't in a perfect world involve any of us. So I think you do have a commitment to follow up on that and to find ways to make that work better. And we'll have a conversation both with the ARB, which I will visit to discuss this further, also with Village Council and with our planning consultant and Jennifer Gray, to think about how we can manifest that, because the worst thing on anybody's part is to end up with a situation that's already happened and which might have been forestalled if it had been flagged earlier. So with all that said, I certainly compliment the owner painting all those units black instead of the white or off-white that they once were. It's obviously a dramatically better circumstance with that improvement. I am happy to report that they've agreed to cover all the labels. So let me offer a resolution to accept the applicant's claim to overrule the ARB's denial on the matter of shielding the units, and our vote pursuant to a resolution that would memorialize it as provided after our vote by Keena Beaton. Is there a second?
Mhm.
So Paul?
Aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. All right, there you have it. We've brought to close a little bit of a tortured chapter. With great respect to everybody involved, we're going to find a way not to get into this situation in the future. So,
That'd be good.
all right, thank you all. With that, back to our regular business. We can go to the resolutions. Number 384, Paul. Let me share my screen for those who wish to follow along. Oh, before we do that, I'm sorry. I meant to inquire whether there was any comment from any member of the public who may be in the room or on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand. Okay. Tom Rooney? Nothing?
Well,
If you want to talk, you got to come here. Tom Murphy's waiting, so.
Well, it's just a general comment. First,
Okay.
I want to start positively. The new lights on the trees in Nona Park there are really nice.
Mhm.
So whoever did that.
So a shout out to
That's a good thing.
Kathy Dinkle on the beautification committee who encouraged to do it. A shout out to us for deciding we're willing to pay for it. But it looks good, really.
I
Thank you
give
for
you
that.
permission, you can pay.
All right, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're over here too. So,
My only thoughts
Yeah.
about the building that you just approved for it, I mean, yes, you had to do that. I mean, it's gone too far to not go forward so that they can start renting them. But my only complaint or my only question is, first, it's not the fact that the building was built too high, in my opinion, to begin with, but now that it went higher than that with the equipment on the roof,
right,
there's not too much you can do about it as far as the builders go. My only thought was, if you look at the Burns Theater, though that it is lower, on their roof, they have a blackout fence or
Yeah.
curtain. I don't know what you call it, but
Yeah.
it's a curtain around it. And though, yeah, you see the curtain there, but it's not as much in your face as seeing all the individual units. So I don't know what they were saying about, or you guys were saying about, putting partitions between each of the units. So that was my only
Yeah.
thought, that maybe if something like they have at the Burns Theater, maybe that would calm people down if it was on top of the other building.
understood. And that had been mentioned. That piece at the Burns was added after the fact to address this issue with concern from the
Yeah,
planning commission / ARB about the visibility of that. Of course, in that case, as you already pointed out, they were much closer and lower. And not everybody's totally satisfied with that either, but that is a mesh material on a pipe rail. So that matter came up in the conversation as in memorialized in the minutes we just referred to, but
yeah.
it'll go into the discussion as we do a little bit of a postmortem about how this all went and how we can avoid it in the future.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, appreciate it. Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.
Right, Tom Murphy.
Yes, this is Tom Murphy, 52 Orchard Street. I have 3 questions. One of them
Okay.
is in regards to something that was discussed at the village board work session.
Yes,
And 2 of them are related to resolution 2023-401, the $240,000 bond for the pool liner replacement.
yes,
Excuse me. So the first one pertaining to the topic in regards to picnic area or tables and patio area in front of Jean Jacques.
yes.
I heard it was referenced that they would not be required to shovel the snow there. So it made me want to ask the question, what does the town do to prevent liability if someone was to fall in that area once that was set up?
So
That is-
what I meant, I think I'm the one that mentioned snow. They certainly are required, as they would need to just for business purposes, to shovel all the sidewalks.
Mhm.
What I said, and this could be explored further, was that I didn't imagine it would be necessary to shovel snow in this seating area. Obviously, so long as the sidewalks were all properly shoveled, and it might very well end up that you ended up with a berm of snow on that little step up patio. But it's a reasonable question to ask, and we'll pursue that further.
Okay, thanks. So I have two questions related to the 240K bond. The first
Yes.
question is, does the 240,000 include the additional 18.5K mentioned in resolution 2023-397 in regards to a change order for the pool repairs?
Eric,
It does not. That will likely be paid from surplus from the pool operating.
Okay,
so that change order for 18,500, as is shown in the agenda, is to address repair of damaged portions of the pool wall. Long story made short, as perhaps you know, when the contractor who's replacing the pool liner ripped the old one off, there were some areas that required repair beneath.
Okay, yeah, so it's a total of 260K, just for reference purposes, that it's going to cost to repair the pool.
Yes.
The second question I have, it's really two parts. First, in section 3 of the resolution, it refers to the probable usefulness of 15 years. But if I understand, the solution that this money is targeted for is a temporary solution that is going to be destroyed in less than a year when the pool is actually replaced. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
So the schedule for that is in question. At the moment, our intention is to go out to bid sometime next year. And to get bids back, we have increasing concern about what those numbers look like. And as you likely also know, folded into that project now is a flood mitigation piece that's added another, give or take, $1 million to this whole venture, in part because although we've had some issues with flooding coming over the dam from Nanahagan, and water and junk and the like, harming the pool and the pump house, we've had that in spades in the last several years. And so I've engaged a significant question to say, okay, if we're going to invest in a new pool for the community that we hope to be a pool for the next 50 years, given what appears to be the increased frequency of this problem, what can we do to address it and to protect what would be a new asset? I think I may have said this the last time. Nobody's happy about the fact that we have found that the existing pool liner, which we knew to be at the end of its life, has failed. It was our hope, fingers crossed, that we could get to the replacement of the pool before we had to spend this money on the pool liner. We didn't, perhaps related to the last big flood. Water got underneath it, damaged it. The consultants came in and said nothing to be done. This can't be fixed. So either we replace the pool liner as you described a moment ago, or we have no pool for the coming year. And in the hypothetical that some of the issues that we're already seeing make it hard to proceed with the pool, either the bids come back too soon, too high, the flood mitigation piece requires more research, permitting, etc. It is not impossible to imagine that this new pool liner may serve beyond a year. Nobody likes the idea of putting it in for a year and tearing it out, but it has a probable usefulness of 15 years because that's its anticipated life. The alternative, obviously, is to pay for it all out of cash.
And the PPU also just schedules the debt service payments.
Right.
For 15 years.
Okay.
Does
and
that
this-
answer your question or?
That answers the first part. The second part is the resolution also mentions paragraph 61 of section 11 of the local finance law, which I could not find online. What does paragraph 61 of section 11 of the local finance law state, and how is it related to my question around the probable usefulness of 15 years?
So I believe that section, we'd have to look it up, is part of the village component of state law. Accurate, Eric?
Yes.
And so the village component of state law describes various guidelines that control our capacity to raise money through debt. And there are many components to it, including what's called a permissive referendum, which allows us to take an action and then for some period of time, I think give or take a month, if a sufficient percentage of the community opposes it, that can be forced to a referendum.
And that section of the law gives a specific 15-year number for replacement of artificial swimming pools.
I'll just add, Tom, in a general way, we're aware of the fact that this is a strange situation that we've been wedged into here, and we discussed the alternatives extensively, and there were costs that we would incur if we didn't fix the pool. You know, setting aside the fact that we don't want to have to close the pool for the summer season, but that there were costs that would be incurred by not fixing the pool as well. And so we really kind of weighed all of the alternatives that we had, and this, albeit a slightly strange solution, was nonetheless the most reasonable solution that we could arrive at.
I mean, recognize we're not just talking about folks having a recreational opportunity, which obviously we want to provide and have provided in this village for many, many decades. But the pool is also a very significant piece of our day camp program, which is a very important piece for working parents here in our village. And absent the availability of a pool for our day camp program, we find ourselves going on bended knee to try to pay for access to somebody else's pool and renting buses to get kids there, and having no doubt a negative impact on enrollment in our day camp program. But even more importantly than that, a negative impact on the capacity for a very large number of Pleasantville parents to navigate the summer when the kids are out of school. So, all of these things feed together into what we believe to be a reasonable decision, recognizing the fact that we don't have an option not to do this and to still have a pool in the interim. You can't leave the pool unfilled across for the entire months of the winter without risk to its structure, because it depends on the water at all to help push back the force of the earth. And if we don't do this now, not only do we lose this season, but in the hypothetical that all of the various challenges we confront with the replacement of the pool take longer than we wish they would, we'd be out of business even longer. So that was the basis for the decision we made.
And also additionally, our rec department stated that they have a good core of staff for the pool, where it's been lifeguards and all that was very difficult to get the years before when COVID happened. So we would also be losing on all the different staff that we would have, including our own high school students that are a lot that, they can just find another pool, and then it wouldn't be guaranteed we can get them back for the following year. So that was also another consideration as well.
So does that answer your question, Tom?
Well, let me clarify it. I'm not questioning the need to do this. What I'm questioning is the language in the resolution. It refers to probable usefulness of 15 years when everyone has made it very clear there is no intention to use it for 15 years. So I think it's misrepresenting the truth there with that terminology. And that's where
So
I was concerned what paragraph
we're not-
61 of section 11 states, if there's any requirement that it has to be 15 years to allow for the bond to extend past 5 years. That's what I'm questioning, and that's what I don't understand.
Okay, so what the law says is that a project of this kind can be bid on a 15-year debt service plan.
Correct. And we
Right.
specifically asked our bond counsel, can we do this if we, in the hypothetical, do rip it up next year? And he said it was legal to do so.
So the alternative, if we said we're gonna potentially rip this up in a year or two, would be to pay cash for it, depending on the terms of the bond when it's floated. As you likely know, we and our finance department, under Eric's guidance, are constantly looking at our debt profile and looking for circumstances when short-term bonds or bond anticipation notes could be rolled into long-term bonds, when there is a desirable moment to refinance, or when there is a desirable moment to pay off a bond, perhaps to roll it into another. In the hypothetical that we get back acceptable bids for the pool replacement, it is possible that we might look at this and address the question of whether that wanted to be rolled into this and paid off. You know, there are all kinds of alternatives that might arise. A lot of that obviously has to do with the interest rate environment and what numbers we get back.
Thank you. That answered my
Okay.
question.
Great. All right, any other questions from anybody? Raise the hand in Zoom or in the room.
Mr. Mayor?
Welcome, well, you gotta come to the podium.
We
We need you to come to the podium, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you may.
Any questions are welcome.
Thank you.
Name, rank and
Peter
serial.
Russell, 114 Ashland here in Pleasantville. I'd like to comment on the financing resolution you have for the civic space.
Yes,
And I just wanted to say that I support that very much. I think this is an initiative which the village has worked on for many years. Applaud you for staying with it. I think that it really does complement and reinforce the other good infrastructure investments that have been made in recent years, the sidewalk improvements, the crossings, traffic calming, and that secondly, I think it's particularly appropriate that it happened in this period, even though I know you have many other critical infrastructure demands like the pool. I think it's important because there has been an increase, which I support, of density for residential purpose here in the downtown. And it will be a great boon for residents, both who are living in apartments near the downtown, as well as some of the existing purposes such as the farmers market and others. I know that going back to 2016 or 17, the village sponsored workshops where there's a lot of public discussion and input, feedback, and that there was recognition of the value of having a gathering space, more green space here in Memorial Plaza, and to use that or to see it as another way to have interconnections between the different parts of the village. And I think what I've seen of the plans for the civic space, it will really help tie the center of the village together, and in some ways make Memorial Plaza even more kind of a center of the village. Finally, I think one of the great advantages is that we now have the memorials in Memorial Plaza marooned, isolated
we do.
across all of this asphalt. With the civic space, there would be a place that's really kind of a quiet, contemplating type of place and appropriate for memorial. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Peter. We can describe it in greater detail when we get to that resolution, which is not too far on the list, but we're seeking to proceed with a section of the proposed civic space that is associated with the Manville Road project, which we had hoped would be finished by now, but long, complicated story. State approval issues along the way. At the point at which that elbow slip lane on the commuter side is closed, it creates a new opportunity, and we're gonna be able to make this improvement with heavy support from grant funds. So.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Peter, and I agree with a lot of the things you said. I think that having public space is a vital part of the changes that are happening in the downtown. And my hope also is that there's going to be more of a unification of the downtown. You know, as it is, the train track kind of splits it in two, and we have that large parking lot, which just creates this kind of vast tundra that you have to cross. But now with Tooley Street being two ways, I think, you know, having more residents in that area, you'll have a little bit more foot traffic. And then the civic space, I think, is what can potentially really bring those two pieces together. And so I personally feel very optimistic for the future of the downtown and hope that we can build out the full civic space. The stars will align.
I echo all of that, and I know lots of folks have different opinions about the scope of it, the appearance of it, whether it's worth doing, I will say, and I've had this conversation with a few people, including some folks who are doubtful about the merits of it, that once this sort of village square has been created, if it already existed, there would be a tremendous hue and cry about the proposal to tear it down and add parking. So, I mean, what we're talking about here is, among other things, adding a whole lot of green space, a whole lot of trees, and as you quite rightly said, creating for really the first time in its history, a truly honorific location, a setting for our war monuments. So, yeah. All right, thank you for that, Peter. Anybody else? Anything to say? Oh, Tom, welcome back.
It's not about the civic space in general.
Okay.
But it's about what's already been created.
Yes.
With the new sidewalks, love them or hate them.
Yes.
They jut out so far into the road, and
You're talking about Manville?
I'm on Washington Avenue, Manville Road,
Yes.
in front of the theater.
Yes.
Even though it was narrowed down to be one lane through, people are still making it two. And it's lucky nobody, well, maybe there has been accidents yet. But the fact that it is narrowed down, what I'm asking you if you can possibly do, and I don't even think it's in your field to do this, the traffic light that is presently there has to be, in my opinion, retimed. It is painful.
The Washington, the one right opposite the Birds.
Right opposite the theater.
Right.
At certain times of the day, any times of the day, during rush hour, I'm not even talking school time. I'm just talking about normal work days. That traffic goes all the way back to the firehouse on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the problem is because it is only one lane through at the light, somebody might be wanting to make the left and they can't, so nobody can go right. And now that can't be fixed because of the sidewalk jutting out into the road area. So the only thing that could be fixed is that the time, I don't know if it's always timed the same time throughout the whole day, but it always seems like during the morning hours or the afternoon hours or any time I'm coming by there, sometimes, without exaggeration, I leave my house, I go to Chappaqua, I jump on the parkway and I come back down. And I get to Pleasantville quicker than trying to get through that traffic light. So my only question here today is if you can do something about the timing of that light in both directions, maybe that would help.
Okay. I mean, the last piece of this, when the Manville Road project is finally finished, which we now expect to be in the spring, is that all of the area gets repaved and restriped permanently. And we end up with a change in the lights. We have this cantilever light at the parking lot that comes, behind Dunkin' Donuts there. So when all that changes, I think that's an occasion to try to get a focus on the issue you just raised.
And I've talked to their signal division about just paying attention to the time of that light. based on
I raised
conversations
this, yeah.
We've had.
Yeah.
I
agree with you, Tom, and I've been monitoring it quite a bit, and it's really just the Washington Avenue side.
Yeah,
The Manville side is functioning quite well, and Memorial Plaza is functioning quite well. So once the new light goes in at Wheeler, hopefully they can retime and just extend the Washington Green.
is that a state issue thing or is that,
Yeah.
they have to do it, correct?
It is, I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me started.
Please don't.
Yeah, you're gonna trigger me.
Okay, I've done that before. I don't want to see.
It's all right, and I appreciate it. All right, thank you for that comment, Tom.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, there we go. All right, let me share my screen and we will go to the resolutions. Screen, agenda. All right, there we go. Paul, number 384.
Result that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the minutes of the regular meeting held on November 13th, 2023.
Is there a second? Somebody.
Nicole's supposed to say.
I wasn't here, so.
I wasn't here either. Sorry, okay.
That doesn't mean you can't second it.
That's true, but
People routinely vote on minutes for meetings they weren't at,
All right.
although it's a question.
I was going to abstain.
Yeah, all right, you're welcome to abstain. I've done it on occasion. There are three of us who were there. That leaves you, David, to a second.
Second.
Comments or corrections to the minutes? All in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna abstain too. It seems like a cool thing.
Two abstentions from those who were absent from the meeting. I think it's an honorable thing. The motion passes with 3 positive votes and 2 abstentions. 385, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments for fiscal year ending 2024 as listed below. From the general fund appropriate escrow funds from this, $75,000 from street opening permits for Pleasant Village Estate sidewalks to transfer to capital sidewalks for the 2024 budget. An increase of revenue and expense of the capital fund, an interfund transfer of the $75,000 from the general fund to the capital sidewalk project for the 2024 fiscal year.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this reflects the 75,000 we've had in escrow for all these many years for the required sidewalk along 117 by the Springfield Court Development and around to Pierce.
Correct. And last meeting, we had a resolution to engage an engineer to design the curb and sidewalk. So now we're moving money into the capital account to start paying.
Right, and that first amount of money was money provided by the developer way back when.
Correct.
And
That's what the $75,000 represents.
Right.
are the adjacent property owners, on board?
So there's 2 sidewalk segments, one in front of Pleasantville Estates. They are
Yeah.
absolutely, that's fine. And then we're working with the homeowners.
Still a sort of process.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll bring it in there.
Great.
But
That will be a great improvement.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved, 386, David.
Resolved, the Board of Trustees hereby approves the abstract for payment claims dated November 27, 2023 for fiscal year ending 2024, covering check numbers 109-231 to 109-332. General fund $1,736,006.42. Special $625, water fund $243,176.68. The capital fund $91,606.29. The refuse fund $74,112.09 for a total of $2,145,580.48. Ouch. And payment of claims is attached.
Is there a second?
Okay.
So further to David's ouch, we do not spend $2.1 million twice a month. This is our annual payment to the pension funds for police, pension funds for non-uniformed, as well as health insurance.
That's correct.
Oh dear. And just in the category of it's soon to be December and thereafter January, we'll be rolling into the budget process for the forthcoming year. We've already received notification that there are some increases in all these categories.
Yeah, our healthcare rates are going up about 8 to 9%. for next year.
There you have it. Comments or questions on the payment of claims?
And then as Alyssa just texted me, our general, liability insurance payments will also include.
It all comes at once.
Yes, yeah.
Like home ownership. Village ownership is not inexpensive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 387.
Be resolved by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, Westchester County, New York, the village as follows. Section 1. The village is hereby authorized to construct improvements to the North End Memorial Plaza in the village to create a new civic space, including original furnishings, equipment, and apparatus required in connection therewith, otherwise known as the project, at an estimated maximum cost of $700,000, and to issue up to $700,000 in serial bonds pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law to finance the cost of the aforesaid specific object or purpose. Section 2. It is hereby determined that the maximum estimated cost to be aforesaid specific object or purpose is $700,000. Said amount is hereby appropriated therefore, and the plan for financing thereof shall be the issuance of not to exceed $700,000 serial bonds.
I think you can just call out the remaining sections and as stated in the record, otherwise
Okay,
you'll get a sore throat.
whatever you say, chief. Call out meaning
Just
section
Section
3,
three,
section
four,
4,
right.
section 5, section 6, section 7, section 8, section 9, section 10, 11, 12, 13, and finally 14. All are available for public reading,
as further stated in the record.
as further stated in the record.
And we need a roll call vote on this.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Paul,
Aye.
oh,
Aye.
David,
Yay, I mean, aye.
Michael.
Aye.
I vote aye. Resolution passes 5-0. Back to you, Paul, 388.
Result that the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the village administrator to sign an amendment and renewal of shared services for the waste and recycling communications platform effective November 1st, 2023 to October 31st, 2024 in the amount of $3,226.11.
Is there a second? Second. So this is the Recycle Right platform, which I remind folks is a great resource. You can log into it and identify your address and find out when your trash and recycling pickups are occurring. You can get reminders of them. You have all kinds of functions. A joint venture, Sustainable Westchester is a organization with a membership by almost all Westchester municipalities. All in favor?
Agreed, yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved. 389, Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby accepts the resignation of Jay Huang, court attendant effective November 19th, 2022.
Is that a second? Is there a second? 2022 is accurate. Is this just cleaning up the record?
Correct.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 390, David.
Resolve the Board of Trustees hereby accept a donation in the amount of $325 in Pleasantville class of 1968 to plant a tree in Nanahagan Park. Thank you very much.
Is there a second?
Second,
Really great news. Pleasantville High School class of 1968. Thank you, every one of you.
very nice.
I would like to just thank you also because that's my class. And I was asked to come tonight to just thank you personally because I was part of that, getting it done with Mario and.
Yeah.
And,
But
Eric and
the
everybody.
thanks are from us to you, right?
Yeah, and it's gonna be on the high side of the pool, so it won't flood.
All right.
High and dry.
All right.
I am dry,
Thank you, Tom Rooney, class of 1968, and all your classmates who were involved.
and the teachers, they were We're all, they all part of it.
Really appreciate it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, a resounding aye.
Aye.
391.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the donation of 2 Pleasantville Music Festival tickets for Congregation Sons of Israel.
Is there a second?
Okay,
There's a donation request attached. The organizers of the music festival receive these requests from various organizations and identify moments where we can both assist a nonprofit and also generate new interest in the music festival. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 392. Paul.
Result, the Board of Trustees has received and examined a copy of the Village Pleasantville Justice Court order for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2023. All files identified therein have been turned over to the proper official of the village and authorizes the village clerk to file the order with the Office of Court Administration pursuant to section 201-A of the Uniform Justice Court Act.
Is there a second?
second,
So that court order is attached, provided by O'Connor Davies. Same auditor that does the village audit, a clean audit, no issues presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. 393, Nicole.
Whereas the Village of Pleasantville has proposed to reconstruct the village pool located at Nanahagan Park on village-owned property located at 232 Lake Street and designated on the tax map, section 105.12, block 1, lot 1. And whereas the project includes demolition and reconstruction of the village pool and the installation of drainage improvements, including a new culvert and related improvements, proposed action or project, and whereas the proposed action is classified as an unlisted action pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and whereas the project is located in the village's RRR1 family residential zoning district and is a permitted use in such district, and whereas the project includes more than 15 cubic yards of disturbance to the 50-foot buffer area surrounding the Nanahagan Brook and therefore requires a wetland permit from the Village Planning Commission pursuant to Chapter 182 of the Village Code. And whereas pursuant to matter of County of Monroe, 72 New York 2nd 338, 1988, and its progeny, the Board of Trustees is authorized to municipal project from otherwise applicable village land use requirements and regulatory review by other boards within the village. Now, therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees analyzed and duly deliberated upon the following factors as set forth in the County of Monroe and finds as follows with respect to the project. 1, the nature and scope of the instrumentality seeking immunity. Can I skip the sub?
Yeah, I think you can just read the headlines.
Okay.
Right.
The kind of function of land use involved, the extent of the public interest to be served thereby, or the effect of local and use regulation would have upon the enterprise concerned and the impact upon legitimate local interests. 5, applicant's legislative grant of authority. 6, alternative locations for the facility in less restrictive zoning areas. 7, alternative methods of providing the needed improvement. 8, intergovernmental participation in the project development process. And 9, an opportunity to be heard. Be it further resolved that for the reasons stated herein and after duly analyzing the Monroe balancing test, the Village Board of Trustees hereby determines that the approval authority for the village wetland permit associated with the project shall be transferred from the Village Planning Commission to the Village Board of Trustees. Be it further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees shall retain authority to review and revise the proposed plans as it deems necessary for the best interests of the village. Be it further resolved that the Village Board of Trustees will hold a public hearing on the wetland permit application for the project on December 11, 2023 at 8 p.m. at Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, and via video conference with respect to the wetland permit application for the project, which public hearing will include opportunities for interested members of the public to provide written and oral comments on the wetland permit application, the site plan permit application.
Why don't you add to that? With detail as further stated in the record.
With detail as further stated in the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the site plan permit application is attached to this. Short version of a very long resolution is that the work proposed at the pool and the work proposed for the drainage improvements involves quite a bit of work in an area that's officially classified as a wetland, which is the entire pool zone. And under these circumstances, pursuant to what you have already heard, the village proposes to proceed as on a location that is owned and controlled by the village. And it's within our rights to streamline the review process as described.
David?
Yeah, so on section 9, an opportunity to be heard,
Mhm.
says the village board of trustees discuss various aspects of the project. So unless you all met without me on Thanksgiving Day, I think one of those dates is wrong.
Oh, November 23rd.
That would be November 27 today, right?
Yes, and,
Yeah, good point.
right.
We didn't tell you about our Thanksgiving.
The hell, guys?
Yeah.
So would that be the correction, Eric?
Yep. Alyssa's updating it right now.
Okay, so the resolution as revised is approved by the mover and the seconder. Do we have a
Yes.
second?
Yes.
Yes, both approved?
Yeah.
All right, again, public hearing being held on this at our next meeting, December 11 at 8 p.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 394, Dave.
Whereas the village board of trustees desires to replace the existing village pool at Nanahagan Park with the reconstruction of a new pool along with the addition of a drainage culvert to be proposed to run between the pool deck and the pool house located on the property known and designated as parcel number 106.12-1-1, and whereas the project is an unlisted action pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617 of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECRA, and whereas the village board of trustees intends to serve as lead agency for the SECRA review of this unlisted action, now therefore be resolved that in accordance with the requirements of SECRA, the village board of trustees hereby declares its intent to serve as lead agency for the environmental review of the above referenced project pursuant to SECRA. Be further resolved, the village board of trustees authorizes the circulation of a notice of intent to declare lead agency with all supporting documentation to all involved and interested agencies, and be it further resolved, all involved agencies shall be given 30 days from the mailing of the lead agency notice to notify the village board of trustees of any objection to such lead agency designations. Attachments include the SEAF village pool, notice of intent to declare lead agency location map, and pool reconstruction drawings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 395, Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby schedule a public hearing to consider introductory local law 7 of 2023 to amend chapter 173-24 and 173-68 of the Code of the Village of Pleasantville concerning loading zones for December 11, 2023 at 8 o'clock p.m. on the second floor of Village Hall, 80 Wheeler Avenue, Pleasantville, New York, 10570.
Is there a second?
Second.
December 11 is shaping up to be a thrilling evening. Public hearing on loading zones. All right, the proposal here we discussed in work session clarifies our village code regarding loading zones and we'll make it uniform across what we believe to be potentially 4 locations. Got that right, Eric? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 395, Paul.
396, you mean?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
we did 395.
The result of the board of trustees hereby authorizes the village mayor or the village administrator to sign an agreement with Cohen Law Group for legal services pertaining to the renewal of the village's cable franchise agreement with Altice and Verizon.
Is there a second?
Second.
So Eric, you want to describe the background here?
Sure. So, our cable franchise agreements typically are up for renewal every 6 to 10 years. They're both coming due. This law firm specializes in franchise agreement negotiations. They come highly recommended from some neighboring municipalities who engaged with them and then ultimately secured additional revenues through the franchise agreement negotiation process. So we've had some initial conversations with them. They've identified some revenue items that are not included in our current franchise agreements that we are privy to. And they are confident would be able to negotiate them into a franchise renewal agreement. So we believe that based on those additional revenues, it would more than pay for this legal fee.
And clearly, it's a niche business that requires people who do this for a living as opposed to people who do it occasionally. So
That's right, and that's an issue that many municipalities have run into, and this law firm is actually located in Pittsburgh, so they are not local, but they are used by many Westchester municipalities.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. 397. Nicole.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes a change order for the pool liner replacement for $18,500 to repair damaged portions of the pool wall, and there's an memo attached.
Is there a second?
Second.
We made reference to this, responding to Tom Murphy's questions earlier. When the failed pool line was removed, some repairs need to be made to the pool walls that were then revealed at the cost of $18,500. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. David, 398.
Whereas Pleasantville Lofts LLC, owner and developer of the property located at 70 Memorial Plaza, Pleasantville, New York, shown on the town of Mount Pleasant tax map as section 106-05, block 2, lot 31, submitted to the village a declaration of restrictive covenants, DRC, in connection with land use approvals from the Village Planning Commission by resolution dated July 10th, 2019, for 79-unit rental apartment building, and whereas the approved project includes a requirement that 8 of the 79 units must be deed restricted as housing that affirmatively furthers fair housing AFFH pursuant to Village Pleasantville zoning code 185-44, and whereas the DRC includes certain enforcement rights to be extended to the Village of Pleasantville, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the mayor or the village administrator to execute all documents as may be necessary for the purpose of recording the DRC in the Westchester County Clerk's Office, subject to revisions acceptable to the village attorney. The declaration of restrictive covenants is attached.
Is there a second? Second. So this is the formal process by which we establish and then enforce our affordable housing law.
That is correct.
And it's consistent also with the county planning department process.
That is right.
Further comment or question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 399. Michael.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the rate change of Jared Garcia, part-time available recreation assistant, job code 269, Panther Club A7330.101, at an hourly rate of $22, effective November 28th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Paul, back to you. 400.
Result, the Board of Trustees hereby authorize the village administrator or police chief to sign a prisoner transportation agreement with the county of Westchester.
Is there a second?
Second.
Boilerplate agreement that gets updated periodically, that reimburses us in some circumstances to transport prisoners to or from the county jail. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. 401, Nicole.
Be it resolved that
You
the
get all the long ones.
be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville, Westchester County, New York, the village as follows. It feels like there's something missing there.
Yeah.
Section 1. The village is hereby authorized to undertake the improvements to the swimming pool at Nanahagan Park, including replacement of liner pumps and electrical systems and original furnishing, equipment, machinery, or apparatus required in connection therewith at an estimated maximum cost of $240,000, and to issue not to exceed $240,000 in serial bonds pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law to finance the estimated cost of the aforesaid class of objects or purposes.
I think you could just call out the sections from here as further
Okay.
stated in the record.
Okay, as further stated in the record, section 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Should I read the final one?
Sure.
The Board of Trustees previously determined that the project is a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act and the regulations thereunder, SECRA, and no further action or review is required under SECRA.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we've had a number of extremely long boilerplate, resolutions, but
Mhm.
be reminded that anytime you're interested in that which is further stated in the record, it's available to you via Novus Agenda through pleasantville-ny.gov. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
We have to do
Oh,
a,
roll call, sorry.
and we had this on the last meeting, but we need, 2/3 of
Yeah, I
the,
wondered why,
yeah,
Right,
so having just the 3 didn't.
yeah. All right, roll call vote, all.
Aye.
Nicole,
Aye.
David, aye. Michael,
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Roll call vote passes 5-0. All right, that is the last of our agenda items. Is there any further comment from anybody in the audience or anyone on Zoom? If so, raise your hand.
General comment? With the removal of the slip lane coming up very quickly. Can't you talk with your friends in the state, Peter, about,
We talk to them and Eric talks to them practically every day.
hey,
Yes.
to pay, when the repaving and the relining is being
Yeah.
done,
Mhm.
is it not silly to stop it at Grant Street?
Keep going. It's
Went
a
from
mess
Grant
all the
Street
way.
To the end
Oh.
of the Manville extension.
Honest
is
to
an
God.
Absolute disaster.
I-
All the potholes that I assume they.
Yes.
Or us
They.
filled recently, they're presently coming back.
Yes,
So that was my concern. I mean, it makes financial sense if all the equipment is here to just
it
do it.
and it's such grim condition. So I totally agree, really. All the way out past Pleasantville Road and from Pleasantville Road all the way into Mount Pleasant to Bedford Road again.
Yeah,
That section, I think of you because I felt unfairly, you said you could churn butter
yeah.
with a butter churn in your back seat on Washington Avenue.
Mhm.
And I thought, no, come on, but I think you could.
I proved it.
Yeah.
Okay,
right,
I just,
I believe me,
yeah,
we're it's a source of great frustration.
thank you.
I mean, I will be ever so slightly sympathetic to DOT, which is to say, they operate with a substantially smaller workforce than they had 10 years ago, which
Yeah.
isn't helping the world, but there it is. That said, it's a difficult condition.
All right,
So-
thank you.
all right, I thank you for that. All right, any further comment of any sort? All right, with that, is there a motion to go into a brief executive session regarding real property matters?
So moved.
Second,
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Thank you all. We're headed to executive session. We appreciate your attention. As always, you can pick up this or past meetings at pctv76.org. Otherwise, we'll see you again on December 11th.